Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking some time out of the day to join the webinar. If there are two words that have been overused in the past decade in the enterprise world, is clearly digital transformation. But the reality is that every single enterprise today is going through some sort of IT initiative to adapt their architecture to the new demands of today. So what I'm going to share with you, with the MSPs joining this webinar, is an opportunity to actually increase your revenue streams and generate more stickiness with your current customers with what we believe is a very disruptive offering. So a little bit of first of who's Accidian, if you haven't heard of us. So we consider ourselves the network and application performance experts. And we do this by focusing on end user experience. We actually help our customers assure their IT services with a disruptive and cloud native offering. We are a global company. We serve both the service provider space and also all enterprise segments. We're extremely innovative with over 40 patents right now. And today, there are 2 billion users across the globe that are assured by our Accidian SkyLIGHT portfolio. So why is this even a problem, right? And I mean, you can read through this slide, but the reality is that the architectures today, the IT infrastructure today is changing. And the way it's changing actually gives the IT leaders in the enterprise world less control and less visibility of what is going on in that infrastructure and how is that affecting ultimately that end user experience, whether it's an internal user or your customers. And the fact that 70% of the time an IT organization learns about a performance problem from the end user is not really a good stat, right? So it is a pervasive problem, and it's just increasing with migration to cloud. So SkyLIGHT is the name of our portfolio, and I'm going to walk you a little bit on how we help managed service providers and our customers generate value out of this. So the first thing is optimize digital assets, right? So as you go through these transformative initiatives, it has to be done in an efficient way. You have to be able to get the most out of your investment and optimize all your digital architecture. Also, we help embrace change. I mean, the enterprise are all going through some sort of cloudification process, right? And the reality of hybrid clouds and multi-cloud environments is here today, and is here not only to stay but to increase. So how do we help those IT organizations embrace that change and take control of that process? And then ultimately, the biggest goal is to enhance that end user experience. Many customers of ours actually acquire our solution to ensure that the changes they're making is not disrupting the end user experience, but actually you can be way more proactive and use some of our value adds to enhance that end user experience, especially in this new omni-channel ecosystem of today. So if we talk a little bit more about cloudification and what that means, the number of failure points today on our IT infrastructure has exponentially increased, right? If you think about over a decade ago, having an on-prem solution was the norm, and looking at what's called in the market north-south visibility was good enough. So you had your on-prem deployment, the data center, apps running in your own private environment, and you could buy and acquire any of the traditional network or application performance tool to monitor that, and that was good enough. Now today, in this hybrid and multi-cloud environment, what's happening is that you're losing visibility of what is going on, because now you have a certain percentage of your applications maybe still running on your private infrastructure, another set of them running on public cloud. You also have rolled out probably dozens of SaaS applications. And you have platform and infrastructure as a service as well as part of that environment. So the commonality here is that you have less control of what is going on in your environment and how that affects the end user. And on top of that, if you add the traditional siloed view of network and application performance tooling in the past, you'll see why this becomes even more relevant, right? In the past, and even today, actually, you have the network team that acquires a specific tool to monitor the network and basically rule out any issue with the network. You have the application team looking at application coding and what is the best way to deploy applications across infrastructure. If the company is large enough, you probably have a database team that's looking at that, and then you have the data center organization, and everyone is looking in silo at their own environment. But nobody's really looking at the whole end-to-end picture and how that is affecting that end user experience. And this type of architecture, the siloed views, is just the perfect storm for finger pointing, the war rooms, and things that we hear from our customers all the time. The lack of collaboration among teams is there. So SkyLIGHT, I'll talk about a little bit about our solution, but SkyLIGHT actually unifies that view and fosters collaboration across multiple teams within that enterprise. So what do customers tell us, right? And I touched a little bit about some of this, but customers are asking us, well, how can I address performance in my infrastructure as a service and software as a service and hybrid cloud environments? Is there a way you can show me a 360-degree wide-angle view of my whole application stack from layer 2 all the way up to layer 7? What about my east-west traffic? How can I see traffic flowing across the different data centers? And last but not least, what about edge visibility, right? Traditional NPM tools are just not cost effective to monitor the edge. You can't afford to put a big appliance on your branches or offices. And so normally the view is disrupted there because you can't see all the way end to end. So these are challenges we hear from our customers all the time. What do our managed service providers challenge us with? They said, well, you know, NPM, APM tools are great, but they're really difficult to deploy. It takes a lot of time to set up. And in the end, a lot of our customers end up not extracting the value out of them. That's one of the things we hear all the time. The MSPs also challenge us with different business models, right? Probably you're selling primarily on a monthly basis as a subscription. Maybe you sell or you charge per user, per workstation, depending on the type of service you're providing. Well, traditionally in the industry, we tend not to adapt to that, right? So can you adapt to actually what I need as an MSP to deliver this service? If as an MSP you have SLAs set with your customers, can you help me identify any performance issue faster? And even better, can you proactively look at degradations before there's an issue to help me ensure that I'm delivering on those SLAs? So these are some of the things that, that we used as an input to actually define our MSP offering. So what is the opportunity for the managed service partners? So first of all is create more stickiness with your current customers, reducing churn, and differentiating your core offering. You can actually add visibility to many other offerings you might have today on the table, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Like I said before, monitor your own service performance against SLA. So if you do have penalties built in your contracts, you can actually assure those and make sure they don't happen, and that you are complying with the SLAs that you put out there. And then last but not least, definitely add a new revenue stream with a service that I've been in this space for over a decade now, and no one has actually really cracked a simple way for MSPs to monetize network and application performance in this space. So this is an opportunity for the MSPs to go out there and acquire new customers. So why do customers buy this type of solutions? So there are several use cases. These 6 here are the more relevant, the ones that we see the most. The first one being the basic troubleshoot faster and reduce main time to resolution, right? So how to avoid that finger pointing, how do you get to the root cause quicker, and remember that stat I saw in the beginning that a little bit over 30% of the open cases take more than a month to get resolved or are not even resolved, right? So we're talking here reducing MTTR to minutes, not to days. That's if you're in the fire drill mode, but you can actually do proactive monitoring with the solution and actually avoid a service interruption by looking at degradations ahead of time. Collaboration across multiple teams, leveraging that wide-angle view that we can provide across all layers. Reducing the IT operations risk is another one, and this is tied to very specific IT projects that might be going on, like migration to the cloud, or it could be deploying a new technology like SD-WAN. Use this solution to actually do baselining before, during, and after any of these projects, changes, or migrations. Because of the uniqueness and richness of the metadata that we produce, there is a strong use case with security around threat detection and investigation, and also for forensics if there has been a breach in your infrastructure, and you have to go quickly and find what was breached and where. And like I said, clearly one of the use cases that is growing the fastest for us is optimizing cloud migrations. There's a stat from Gartner that talks about cloud migrations where over 65% of the cloud migrations today actually go off plan and has project budget overruns because of poor planning. So I'm not going to cover in detail our solution, although I'm more than happy to do that if you reach out to us after the webinar. But basically what we do is we provide a truly unified network and application performance monitoring view. We look at layer 2 and layer 3 in terms of how the network is being used, how it's performing, and if we can isolate any network-related problems. We also look at how the applications, the different applications, are flowing through that infrastructure, looking at TCP performance from an end-user experience perspective. And we can obviously look at degradation as well. And then, because we see 100% of the transactions, we can actually look at transaction response times on the fly, on the spot. So we look at application performance as well, and how that affects that back-end infrastructure. Why we're saying this is a unique offering from a technology perspective? So if you look at the stream-to-disk traditional solutions, which is what has been in place for over a decade, the way that works is you have, you're basically capturing 100% of all the packets all the time, streaming that information into huge storage appliances to then perform some queries and analytics, which eventually feeds into some sort of reporting visualization tool. As an example, if you needed to retain 30 days worth of traffic in this particular model, you would need 48 terabytes of storage. Now, how we do it? Actually, we have a software engine that sits on the wire and is looking at every session, every transaction, every application in detail, 100% of them. But what it does, it decodes it and analyzes it on the fly. So we're not streaming everything out to disk in the beginning. What we do is we strip out the key information that we need, that enriched metadata, and after we perform that analysis on the fly that gives us a lot of metrics already, we then stripped what is equivalent to 0.5% of the traffic that you would normally stream to disk into our storage and analytics engine as well. That provides instantaneous insight into that data and hundreds of metrics. And in that same example, if you needed a 30-day retention of all the information, it would consume 3 terabytes of storage versus 48 terabytes. So in today's data explosion world, you can see why this is absolutely disruptive. And when you're actually moving more into the cloud, what happens is that it's harder and harder to extract all the information that you need in those hybrid environments with the traditional solutions that have been in place in the past. You would either need NICs or network packet brokers, or you might be needing to generate additional traffic load to actually extract the information out of that VM environment or that cloud environment. It's intrusive, it's expensive, it's not scalable, it's definitely not fit for the cloud if you do it the traditional way. We leverage our pure software sniffer to actually do this, and that sniffer sits in a virtualized environment, whether it's running on a VM machine or actually in the public cloud, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and we follow the same process that I mentioned before. We're doing the analysis on the fly in the same cloud infrastructure. We're just stripping out a very small percentage of data out of that environment for further analytics. So it's native infrastructures, it's negligible, the resource consumption, and it's extremely scalable for the cloud. So in a nutshell, what makes us really different? I mentioned all of these things, but again, wide angle view out of the box. We we can see over 3,000 types of applications without any need for configuration. We unify all layers, layer 2 all the way to layer 7. We have a combination on our portfolio of both synthetic and traffic-based solutions. We can very, very easily and cost-effectively deploy this in the edge, so we can actually get to that edge visibility that's a gap today, and it's very scalable. And from a time to insight perspective, because it's pure software-based, it does install in minutes. You're not putting agents on laptops, so it's non-intrusive. You do have 100% of visibility on all transactions, and it's absolutely fit for cloud and private and hybrid infrastructures. So I spoke about the why, I spoke about the differentiation in our solution. Now let me spend the last 7 minutes talking about what we build for the managed service providers that are engaging with us. So we've actually registered a service creation methodology that we call 4X Snap methodology. And for those of you that don't know, our partner program is called SkyLIGHT 4X Partner Program. That's why the name of this particular methodology is called 4X Snap. And what it is basically a set of 4 workshops. These workshops last anywhere between 3 to 5 hours. And we can do them virtual or on site. We recommend definitely the operations workshop to be done on site. But what we claim to do is if an MSP wants to do one of these workshops per week, again, 4 hours per week, within a month, you have, we guarantee that you will be able to launch a network and application performance service out in the market. The 4 workshops are there in the screen. We start with a service definition workshop where we help you define what is the type of service that you're going to go out, and we look obviously at your target markets, your verticals, your existing offerings, and we help you with that. The service operations one is, to me, is one of the most important ones, just because I've seen a lot of MSP offerings just fail because we haven't looked at how this is going to be operationalized, how it ties into your billing system and your current processes. So we help you with that. We actually help you with a pricing workshop and help you define what's the best pricing structure to go to market. And then last but not least, we look at your go-to-market approach altogether and look at the vehicles, the best vehicles to push this to market. What's unique about our pricing model? Well, the way we actually charge for these services is based on the amount of data that we're analyzing, right? So it's very straightforward. But what we've done with the MSPs, we actually adapt that pricing model to fit your needs. So if you're selling a consumption-based service on a monthly basis, we can do that. If you normally charge per seat, per user, per service type, in your current portfolio, we can adapt the pricing so it's not disruptive for you and your customers see it as another add-on value-add service from the partner. And again, because our sniffer is software-based and is easily deployed, we have what we call an unlimited capture model. We don't charge for the capture engines out there. Again, we only charge based on the amount of data that we analyze. You can actually move those sniffers and software around easily as the infrastructure changes. So when customers evolve and continue this IT migration process, you just move the software around very easily without having to, turn off, take out an appliance, order new hardware, and what you would have to do in traditional models. Again, I covered a lot of this in the presentation, but when you compare the build and run of this service against the traditional way of doing this, is completely disruptive. Is nowhere seen in the industry today with any of this type of solutions. Extremely fast to set up, quickly to build, easier to run, and very flexible pricing models. So what's in it for the partners? Well, first of all, we sell this as a subscription. We know MSPs is what they like to do. And because we provide flexible monthly subscription even, it's really a low barrier of entry for your customers. We've actually lowered the barrier of entry for this type of solutions from the enterprise space into the mid-market because now it's more affordable. You can use this as a service wrapper, right? And these are just examples of it. You can provide, I'll pick a few, network or network health reports or application audits that you can do on a one-off. You can help with longer projects like a cloud migration, quality of experience assurance projects. You can use it to optimize IT infrastructure services. And it could be a complementary solution to things you might be selling today. If you're selling security, you can use this as the threat detection or what I was talking before, right? The security use cases. If you're helping customers deploy SD-WAN, if you're an SD-WAN MSP provider, you can extend that SD-WAN visibility to the edge by adding these services as well. So ultimately, we normally our average size deal is about $320,000 on an annual basis. With the type of margins that we see out there, you could be making roughly 40% of margin on average on this type of deals on an ongoing basis. So very compelling for our MSPs. So that's all I had for today. I'm going to take questions if there are any. If you want to contact us for further engagement to find out more about our solution, find out more about our partner program, or any questions that I might not be able to address today, you have the email address there, forexpp@axidian.com. Please reach out to us and we'll be happy to engage. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions, Yasmin.
Thank you, Sergio. What a great presentation. We have one question here. It's how quickly can you set up and onboard an MSP? I'm interested in the methodology you described.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we pride ourselves of being agile and flexible, right? And we set up an onboarding process that is pretty seamless for MSPs. So we go through that onboarding process fairly quickly. Within 2 weeks, you can be onboarded as a partner, and then the workshops is really up to the MSP how quick they want to move. Like I said, this, if you think about it, this is worth 2 full days, the 4 workshops, right? Half a day each. What we tend to see is normally, because you need different stakeholders, 1 workshop a week makes sense, but if an MSP is eager to go quicker to market and they say, I want to do all 4 workshops in 2 weeks, then we can accommodate that and do it. In other cases, it takes a little longer if it's a larger MSP because they need to involve multiple groups in the discussion. But it's fairly flexible.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, so we don't have any more time for questions. We'd just like to thank everybody for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you again at our next webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.